Ladies and gentlemen, welcome everyone and welcome back. It's SimSeniors and we are here once again for Season 6. It's good to be back after a little bit of a hiatus, after a break week. I have to say it was odd on the previous Monday, coming back home thinking that it's going to be another great race night and being reminded that it was a break week. It was interesting. It was something that I had to quickly adjust to. However, we press on and we look forward to the racing of the championship today. Now, let's talk about points before we get into things and about talking with our drivers in terms of tonight's race. In first of the gold class, so as a reminder, we have our three classes. We have gold, silver and bronze with white, silver and red driver numbers respectively. In the top of the order and looking at the top rung, you can see all the cars on screen there with our very handy spotters guide produced by the team at SimSeniors and Craig. Absolute legend it is. It's going to be Liam Blom up at the front, the Mustang proving quite a formidable adversary and currently sat with 92 points, and that is going to put him 16 points clear of Peter Wolfslener. You see him on it with the very nice looking McLaren. Always two-tone, the Wolfpack paint. And then you have Dave Marsh in the Porsche. Bright green, shark teeth, ready for battle, and 8 points behind Wolfslener with 68. Then looking to the silver division, we can see the rest of them coming up once again on screen. And it's Tony McKibben in the Porsche GT3, once again, I say, proving quite a formidable car, alongside Adam Rios, but just 2 points split the Porsche and the Mustang. Meanwhile, Justin Cutler just behind is going to be 2 points behind that, so we have 4 points between our podium spots here at the silver class, and that is going to be a battle that you don't want to miss, folks. And then in terms of the bronze class, as you can see with the red driver numbers, it's going to be Paul Hamby with the lead spot, 107 points, probably one of the strongest positions that we have seen in this championship thus far, class relative, with 92 points going to Stephen Howes and then John Mitchell with 88 points, both of them in Ferrari 296s. So that is where your rundown is at, and of course, as we come around to start our fly-by lap, it is Watkins Glen tonight. It is a brilliant track. It's 11 corners, and for some parts, it is almost a flat-out rush. So key defining areas of the track are, of course, going to be the small kink, the chicane, on the back straight. Weirdly enough, as the corner chart that I have on to hand, it's not counted as a corner, which I find somewhat bizarre. So technically 15 corners, if we're counting the chicane on the back straight. But otherwise, it's 11. Then you look through to the second half of the track, say right side, bottom right, seeing distinctively as a foot, which is kind of fitting because you have turn 7 there, 180 degree corner on the end. That is toe, with the boot being the straight after it, and heel being turn 8 just before the final run. So interesting definition and certainly some memorable corner names, as we will be getting very much used to in due time. Now, one thing's for sure before we get jumping into this, if you enjoy what we do here at SimSeniors, it's got to be worth your time to just drop us a like, drop us a follow. Appreciate everyone coming in and supporting the racing. If you want to get involved yourself, we've got the Facebook page and then we've got the Discord after that. So definitely get yourselves acquainted. Fun community here, all just love it for the joy of the racing. But this is where we currently land with things, and looking trackside, we will see very soon drivers will be heading out for qualifying. Now, we're not seeing a few drivers are at the top of the field relative to the rest of them. So, for instance, we're not seeing Grosges in the BMW. Of course, a very strong start, but with missing a round, that has put him down with 55 points in 8th place, because he's got 41 points of penalty as well. So a few different infractions that he's having to serve. That BMW, previously thought to be one of the key contenders, sitting a bit further behind. But I've just got the call, folks. We have officially just got the call that we are about to head into qualifying good and proper It's going to be a 15-minute shootout to see who can get the best time. Of course, the drivers are going to be giving it their absolute everything. And let's see now what they can do. Immediately, we jump on board with Alex North, who curiously has switched from his Aston Martin and is now in the McLaren. So very different in terms of car choice, and I wonder how well he's adjusting. Because that V8 Vantage has served him well in times past, but he hasn't quite been able to match the speed that he has in prior competition. Now, how well he will handle this remains to be seen. Meanwhile, we have a few other cars on their way out now, namely Starkey just behind. And he's in the Mustang? No, I think my timing board might be having a little bit of a hiccup here. I don't quite think that's correct. May have to quickly reset that, folks. And let's say there is a little bit of what seems to be a bit of a technical issue. We quickly disconnect and reconnect our client. And we will be right back with you in terms of the race HUD. The joys of technology, everybody. Front and center. But we're on board with a few now. And we're about to get started with qualifying, good and proper. Just waiting for it to re-grab. And looks like now we have everything actually accurate and back up and running. And now we have got the timing tower back. We have the quali timing. Should be coming back any second. Because we are on board with Jimmy Engdahl. That was in fact Engdahl. That was not a spontaneous switch. So let's get everything fixed here. Apologies for the minor delay. And there we go. There's Engdahl back in the running. Graphics now working as intended once more. We're going to check a little bit further up. As I say, John Mitchell is going to be starting. Going to be starting his lap, but this is going to almost get in the way of some of the traffic from further behind. Let's kind of see the speed that he comes out the final straight at. So coming up to the line. And it looks like we've got a few times coming out. An invalidation from Engdahl, but a 144.6 coming out from Moffat. Immediately jumped by none other than Justin Cutler. A few more cars are going to be coming through as we speak. Let's jump on board with the number 660. That's going to be Hellstrom, one of the Wolfpack drivers, and one to keep an eye on in the gold class. Now coming across and through the final corner. See the kind of pace he can muster as we come up to the line here. Some pretty impressive times coming through. And a 44.632. That's going to put him in third place as Lienblom is going to be immediately usurping the top with a 43.9. That Mustang looking absolutely rapid around this course. A few more cars coming around. Alex North now in the correct vehicle is going to be rounding the final corner in bronze. Let's see how he can stack up to the rest of his compatriots in class. Not doing too hot, 23rd and a few positions behind, of course, group leader Paul Hamby. With a 45.565, it's going to be a tough one to beat for him. John Mitchell, of course, just slightly out ahead of the main pack, and now looking to push and see where he can land. Bronze class, plenty of opportunity here Looks like a yellow's going to be briefly coming out. Mitchell going to be getting P20, so he's going to be second in bronze. Very nicely done there. Larson, let's see what's happening with him. Looks like you're jumping into the pits. He's going to be going out for another run right now. Jordan McNair, another car to watch in bronze. Has been putting down some good pace in the past. Crazily enough, though, Paul Hamby has just gone into 7th with an amazing lap, 44.7. So Jordan, 45.9 now. He's going to be 23rd and 3rd in bronze. Looking to the sharp end of the field. Oh, looks like Cutler has got the lead on silver. And he's currently sat in 4th place on track with Robert Homer just behind. The push is very much on from a lot of these drivers here. James Payton about to cross the line in the Lamborghini, one of the few drivers still to do so. And it is going to be a healthy run. That is going to be 5th in silver. Nicely done there. There you go, Colin McNair coming through. Iron Brew livery, very distinct, very classy. And it's going to be a very smooth run indeed. P4 for silver. So that is about the halfway mark through qualifying, folks. And this is where things are going to start to shake up in a big way. We're dealing with a lot of traffic around this course as well, as everyone's trying to spread out, get themselves a little bit of room around this course and not get interrupted by any other runs from other cars, because just being around another car by about 1 to 2 second proximity could put you under the influence of the dirty air of their aerodynamics. So you want to be in your own room and you don't want to be contesting anyone for on-track space. Like, for instance, Sean O'Neill. He's got no one around him, currently P13. Has a good opportunity to get himself into the top 10s, which he barely does with a 44.765 there. It's just 0.03 of a second shy from Hamby, who currently leads for bronze. Looks like he could even get a little bit of an improvement here if things stack up his way. His delta is currently 0.0, so he's on par with his previous times. Payton is also another Lamborghini who's doing very well for himself. That's currently half a second up. Can he carry that momentum and that advantage through to the final corner? Let's see here. Coming up to the line. Giving it absolutely everything as he comes up. And it's P8. 3rd for silver. Very nicely done for James Payton. Looking around the rest of the field, we've got a few key candidates too. We've got Engdahl, who is running the absolute limit and pushing it to the ragged edge in that 720S. A couple of local yellows coming out for some. And we're seeing drivers having to duck out the way to make sure they don't interrupt anyone's runnings. You see Engdahl on a very good run here. This could put him in a very good position, potentially top 10 if he can link this up through the final corner. He's 7/10 up on the delta, bringing it up to the line. Let's see what he can do here. Tries to tuck out the dirty air, and it's P5 for Engdahl. Immense stuff. That's going to put him P5 in class, as we have just seen. Oh no, P4 in class even. Because Cutler is still out here. He's still on a run. And it looks like he's going to be going for another try. Hellstrom very close behind. Again, Wolfpack driver didn't quite get the pace out of the final corner. Is that still going to be enough to confirm an improvement? It is going to confirm an improvement, but not enough to get a position. 5 milliseconds away from Robert Homer in the bright pink Porsche. Okay, the Pink Panther prowling around this course. So we just had Damian Reed come through, 44.9 on the dot. 7 milliseconds away from Barham. That is going to pip him and just up into P17 overall. Speaking of Barham, we're going to see if he can make an improvement here. Leapfrog that position right back, which he does. Simon Aid just slightly ahead of him, but The better improvement is going to go to Barham, so he's technically going to be pushing Damien Reed all the way down to 19th here. Serrano is going to be bowing out after a semi-successful run, 44.9 on the dot. That is going to match him point for point, bar for bar with Damien Reed. So as Reed got the point, or as he got the position first, that is going to be going squarely to Reed. The Rios will be one to watch as well. Driver that we've shown to have some very good pace. But also, 31st. And we got Cook and Cumberbatch in 32nd and 33rd. So can we get a lap time out of also? He's the only driver yet to actually set a time on the field. As we've just seen, that's Patrick Larson coming through with a .662. That's going to push him into 12th position. And a few more improvements around the field. Unfortunately, no improvement for Marsh. Liam Blom is going to get even faster, however. Best Sector 1 in Sector 3. A 43.595. I have to say, Liam Blom is looking like the new driver to beat because he's been absolutely unstoppable these past couple rounds. Looking like an absolutely on-track weapon. And this could be even faster. And it is! A .505 now for the Mustang. What do you do to challenge that? It's an immense lap from an immense driver. We're going to have to see how the rest of the Gold class responds to this kind of pace difference. Because the next driver is a .4 or 44.012. And that's from Johan Larsson. Half a second away. We've got Engdahl. Will be another driver to watch as we go through, but we're on board tight with Dave Marsh. Coming through the final couple of corners now. Just made the exit out of heel and into the final couple of corners. Careful of the curbs on the exit of that penultimate left-hander, because you will get an invalidation flagged very easily. Two-wheel rule, remember, is going to be an improvement for Marsh, and he's going to be putting himself P4 in class. Nice done from the shark-nosed Porsche. Meanwhile, Wolfslenner, part of the pack, and on the hunt. Turn 9 now. Taking it as best a line as he can. You see powering out quickly as possible from the corner. So they use a little bit of the engine braking rather than actually having to tap the brakes unless you need to manage the temperature. Coming through the final corner now. Very close to the edge of the circuit and to the wall. But it's all about extending the line, carrying as much speed as you can. And it's on to great effect. 43.9. Wolfslenner is going to take the front row alongside Lindblom if qualifying's anything to go by here. Immense run once again. And with just a minute and 15 seconds to go, the drivers are running out of time to respond. Moffat, for instance, 44.2. No improvement currently, but is on potential. See, arcing very wide again to just conserve as much speed as possible. Carry the momentum as much as he can throughout this circuit. See, heavy on the power through toe. Use the cambering and the uphill to force your tyres to grip up. Down through the boot and into heel. Careful of other cars as you go. Little bit of rearward slip, but still a valid lap. Is there going to be an improvement here from Moffat? It's looking very narrow. No avoiding action needing to be taken from the car ahead, but 10 seconds left to go in quali. We could just squeeze in a final run if he makes it to the line, but it doesn't look like it's going to be happening. Looks like this is going to be curtains for Moffat. Last chance. What is it going to be? Is it going to be an improvement? Yes, it is, but unfortunately not enough to take himself to the podium as the rest of the field files through. Qualifying is looking all but settled as all of the drivers, you can see now, appealing into the pits. Hamby crossing the line very soon. Of course, was the car to beat and remains so. As we come through the final corner for bronze, is he going to get an improvement here? He could even get a P15 if he manages to nail this. P13 for Paul Hamby. Amazing run. Really good for the bronze driver and well and truly out ahead of this field. In terms of class-to-class driving, the closest is McNair, and you only have a few drivers left on this field. Richard Cook, of course, didn't get a chance to see him out on field earlier, so this is going to be his main time to get time on this board. 45.4 currently puts him P27, but we know the pace that he's the kind of pace that he's capable of, and we're seeing that in this final run here down to the start finish line, and it is going to be an immense improvement all the way into P12 for the Bentley. Brilliant stuff. Also, the last drivers to cross now. P31. And still with a bit of room to improve. 45.9. He could at least leapfrog maybe Alex North. And he does do just that, folks. So there we are. As we wrap it all, it looks like our lead for the gold class is once again going to be David Lindblom, with Peter Wolfslener and Johan Larsson taking the top 3. Meanwhile, you have Justin Cutler, Adam Rios, and James Payton making your top 3 for the silver. But there's some big swings coming from bronze because Paul Hamby is currently sat P14, an entire half a second away from Jordan McNair. And then in third place is John Mitchell. And those are your podiums for each individual class, folks. So let us know what you would like to see in terms of racing. Let us know who you're rooting for, and we are going to take a very brief intermission as we get ourselves ready for the race. It's going to be fun, it's going to be good, and we'll see you in just a moment. Don't go anywhere, folks. And we're back, folks. Welcome back to SimSeniors, and welcome back to Season 6. We're here at the halfway point of the season with Watkins Glen, and we just had an absolutely brilliant qualifying. Of course, you don't want to be missing anything as we head into our 60-minute race. Of course, mandatory pit stop with tyres as an optional choice. Now, the drivers are going to have to be very wary of where they place themselves on track, in particular as we look to the course and you can see just who is placed where. Big thing here is you look at the marbles, you look at the little pieces of tyre that are scattered around the track. That sort of denotes where you don't want to be, where you're going to be almost driving on glass, having to be very careful with your grip levels, because it not only will be inconsistent, but it will be much lower. So if you're going for overtakes, by all means take the inside line, but be very wary when you get on the brakes. And that is going to be a defining factor of this circuit. Careful of your car placement, careful of where you want to be positioning yourself. And as we move through, it's going to be quite the race ahead. Once we look on board with Lindblom, Wolfslener and Larsen as our top 3 gold class. And then if we jump a bit more into the actual race, we're about to get underway for our formation lap with Cutler, Rios and Peyton up in silver, and then Hamby up in P14, with the P24 going to Jordan McNair, second for bronze, and third going to John Mitchell. Impressive stuff all round from all of these drivers. So time is of the essence to see whether they can capitalize on these kind of movements and where they are going to land themselves when it comes to this race. The bowling alley is open. Hopefully that doesn't mean for our drivers too, as the formation lap is now formally underway. We of course take the leading glance with Lindblom, and I have to say, what an impressive qualifying. Even with the challenges from the likes of Wolfslener, Larsen, Moffat, Lindblom still cleared with a 43.505, and that is not to be scoffed at whatsoever, because the closest time was a 0.9. So it's certainly a rallying cry to the rest of the gold class, because they are going to be wondering how they're going to respond to that kind of quali pressure. And with Lindblom now being in pole, if he gets a good getaway within these first few laps, it could very well be curtains. Getting himself into that kind of position and then taking off as the rest of the drivers squabble could turn Lindblom's race into a much easier affair. But it's about the start, it's about playing your cards right. And alternatively, if we look to someone like Larsen, he has an opportunity to really disrupt the race of his opponents. He's stuck right in the middle of it, and he's going to have a prime opportunity to put the pressure on Wolfslener, who in turn will put the pressure on Lindblom. And you can already see those top 2 already teasing each other a little bit in terms of the space as the formation lap gets underway. Now, I'd be a little bit nervous if I was in their top 4. Despite having such a good qualifying, you still want to keep your nose clean, and you still want to focus your early laps on just getting out into some clean air, not having to fight too much, and not having to deal with any conflicts for track space. If you're doing that, you're losing valuable time, and you are going to get yourself in a little bit of trouble if you get stuck in a fight like that for too long. But let us know what you expect to see over in the chat, as always. And now is a good time, if you haven't done so already, give the stream a bit of a thumbs up if you like what we do here. And if you are more interested in some of the other stuff we do, like for instance Race Idol, the Academy, some of our other events, definitely get involved. We've got the Facebook page and the Discord as well that you'll want to be jumping straight into. So here we are, folks. Coming up to the end of the formation lap now, as we get ourselves into prime spots. Now this is where drivers are now going to be lining up double file, getting themselves into position, allowing the rest of the field to catch up, and then once the green flag is waved for the race leader, then that is going to be the sign the race has officially begun. We can see Larsen and Moffat going side by side, and everyone forming in 2 equal pairs. But we jump to the front now, and we see what could potentially take place. Championship swings that could be brought into motion. And we eagerly await the green flag. The track is hot here in SimSeniors for the 5th race, 6th season of the Racing Championship. Any second now, that green flag is going to call. And then it is go, go, go for everyone involved. Track goes deadly silent. And there you go. That is green light. That is go, go, go. Track is hot here in Watkins Glen, and we are away immediately. Looks like we're going to have quite a battle, and you can see 3 wide, 4 wide, jumping into the rest of the field. Immediately, chaos already at the back. That is McNair. That is going to be Serrano getting involved there. There's going to be a load of cars who are filing off into the distance. That is immediate first corner chaos. Serrano trying to find his footing, immediately dealing with a loss of pace and holding a few cars up in the process. Got to be careful though as we're coming up to the chicane here. We can see the cars up ahead, making sure they don't go into the chicane fighting, because that could end very badly. We can see one of the Bentleys skipping across the curbs. That is Cook trying to retain his P11. Just about making it out of there, with Hamby continuing to push hard and fight his absolute best. You can see here he is, started P14, dropped down a position, but is still giving it absolutely everything because he doesn't want to concede any kind of gap. McNair is now in P20 and less than a second away, and he doesn't want to be dealing with that kind of stress. Wants to get it out of the way as soon as possible. Meanwhile, we are seeing a few incidents further down, and oh, what is this? This is going to be nasty. As you can see, that is Colin, that is Gary, that is Melon, all involved in a major collision. We need to see exactly what happened with that, the number 31. Let's take a replay. You can see all wobble coming in from the McLaren. Going to catch Serrano, bump off the tyre wall. Cook involved, barely managing to scrape by and get out of there. Multiple cars caught in the crossfire. That is a very, very bad situation. And I don't doubt the frustration that is going to be on so many of these drivers' faces as we get many of them now heading into the pits. Lawson managing to make some good out of it, now P16. But he's still, keep in mind, he was in a much better position if we look previous. So Patrick Lawson and Johan Lawson, both very different cars and very different places, but he has still managed to get +2 up. And that is certainly a win on his part. We're going to see already we have 5 cars now in the pit lane, and certainly having seen better days. We jump aboard with the other Lawson. It's going to be Johan. Right behind Moffat here. Let's see what he can do. Maybe he can push a little bit of that speed. So 720S being pretty rapid, and one might have considered at some point the more optimal choice in terms of car. They're just very fast all around. Maybe not the quickest on rotation, but certainly has the power and the acceleration to more than make up for that. As you can see, Moffat going a little bit wide there, but still keeping the lap legal. A couple other battles there about to be jumping into view. That's going to be Simon Carson going for a move on Robert Homer round the outside of the final corner. Very cleanly done in the Ferrari there. Very nice. And you're going to see Paul Hamby maybe take a shot at the action. As you can see, Homer going very wide there through the first corner, just misjudging the braking point ever so slightly. Homer's not quite done with him yet. Carson is not yet out of the woods. You can see him getting very close to the back as we head to the chicane on the back straight. Oh, and Homer again misjudging the line, losing quite a significant amount of time. So now Hamby is hot on the heels and is going to be closing in very fast. It's Hamby going above and beyond, really punching above his weight class, so to speak, because he is in the bronze, and any attack or defense does not matter to him unless it's Jordan McNair in terms of points. That's the thing that he needs to consider. So having more cars between him and McNair is effectively a safety net, and that's one that he can certainly leverage. Put the pace to good use. Battle as you always have. Simon Aid going defensive on Damien Reed here. A lot of cars now trying to find their footing. Liam Blom, we can see, has pretty much got away from the rest of the field. and is setting fastest lap after fastest lap. 44.165 coming in from the Mustang, and he doesn't seem to be any credible threat to him at this point in time. Wolfslener is averaging, as we say, about that 3-second gap. And Moffat is going to be very close by soon with the pressure. So I would not underestimate the fellow Mustang. Both of them on even keel. Maybe some variation in setup, but that's for us to find out. As you can see, Moffat getting closer and closer to Johan Larsson and Wolfslener too. This pack, P2 to P4, is condensing. Eventually, we are going to hit a major inflection point. Meanwhile, we look a bit further down. We can see that Hamby has, in fact, dropped down quite a fair margin. I'm not sure what happened there. Let's see if we can get a bit of a replay. And you can see Hamby has just lost the pace heading into the chicane. Unfortunately, that left Larsson with a free opportunity to take stock and to take point. So where does this leave us as we come up to the 10-minute point of the race? Melon is another car who, unfortunately, I believe we have seen leave. Meanwhile, we jump out with Pedro Serrano, one of the cars who was very much caught up in the chaos earlier on. And I believe that we have lost a couple of cars in that altercation. For instance, Barham is remaining in the pits here and has been in there for a substantial amount of time. So must have quite the bodywork and aero or mechanical to fix. We see a little bit of a fight further up. This is going to be a little bit of a check on Holmberg as McKibben is firmly in his sights. Crazy driving coming out from a lot of them here, but in full pursuit of the positions. And in this early stage of the race, can you really blame them? They see the opportunity, they have no choice but to take it. We meanwhile have Jordan McNair going very slow, in fact, and Wilson, you can see, still having a little bit of aerodynamic damage, and that is going to be leveraged to great effect by Dave Cumberbatch as he's rejoined the field and is now in P22 after an initial altercation narrowly avoided by this Mustang. Got a chance to make up some time once again, and it looks like Jordan is not going to be far behind. You can see Wilson struggling a little bit for corner pace, likely due to that aerodynamic damage. And McNair even trying to go for a move around the outside, although not a wise one going through tow, because you just haven't got the exit speed with the incline. Not a wise move, I'd say. Better to hold off, go for something like the start-finish straight, or even into the chicane through the back. So play it cool, play it easy, and you will be rewarded for your patience. That's the name of the game here. We look around this field and we can see a few drivers settling into their relative positions. For instance, 10-minute mark now crossed, Engdahl in P10, roughly equal to his start position, and quite a gap between himself and Marsh that has diminished very quickly. And in fact, he's going to be going for a move through the chicane. Is it going to stick? Not quite. Oh, slide from Marsh. That could have gone very wrong. Marsh has kept it together. Hasn't invalidated or has incurred a track limits warning, but has kept it together with a little bit of driving heroics, I might even surmise. Meanwhile, a bit further up, we have Hellstrom on Cutler. Of course, these are two cars who are not in the same bracket, not in the same class, so this fight should not matter to him. And in fact, if anyone, it matters more to Peyton, because Peyton is going to be the one who benefits most from this. Him fighting with Hellstrom is a fruitless battle, but letting Hellstrom fight with Cutler to slow them both down and taking the spoils, that is where his money is on. So the field has started to spread out just a little bit now. We've got Lindblom now taking the flag for the 6th lap now. I nearly said take the checkered flag. I would say a little bit premature. Wallace in the pits now as well. So a couple of battles who's soon to brew. Carlson was on the back of O'Neill, but has lost the gap since. And Holmberg continues their pressure on Tony McKibben. Serrano Barham both a lap behind with over 5-minute pit stops for the both of them. Well, looks like Damien Reed could be getting a free shot at a position here. Let's see, are we going to go for it into the chicane? Going very narrow, that's going to be Simon. And Reed with P19 has done rather well for himself, but the fight's not over yet for him because Mark Hughes is now getting involved. And oh, there's contact! That is going to be Simon in the wall. Into the tyre wall there. He is not going to be happy with that one. A little bit dicey there for Rom Hughes. Wonder if that's going to be scrutinized in any way. Let's jump back further up. As we can see, a couple of movements. Engdahl is closing in now to Dave Marsh in the Porsche. Well, this is where he could get a little bit of an advantage. Of course, use the situation to best effect. Don't try and take the same lines through the corners, you'll lose it to dirty air. But you can take a better exit and potentially use a little bit of slipstream to pip into the chicane. Let's see what he does here. Over 250 kilometers an hour as we head into 6th gear. What's the kind of speed going to be? Closing in ever so slightly to the Porsche, but not quite enough at this point in time. Can he get a better line through the chicane though? Not really. Loses it on the second half. So you jump on with this view, it's almost like a roller coaster. How low you are to the ground, how fast it feels like it's going. And don't be fooled. They may look somewhat stationary at points of the track, but these are racing purebred machines going almost 300 kilometers an hour in some places. So do not underestimate. And we'll see a little bit of a three-way battle that's very soon going to be shaping up. Hellstrom just in the foreground. You can see Cutler blocking a attack from the McLaren. And the McLaren is going to be assailing once again. Let's keep an eye on this entire quartet as battles are going to be unfolding left, right and centre. And don't forget Engdahl and Cook in the background too. They are very much going to be a concern for these racers in due course. Oh, a little bit of an off from Cutler. That's going to be Hellstrom's move. And that is going to be, through the first few corners, the McLaren very close to the wall, but he's committed to this position and he's going to take it. P6 for Hellstrom as we come up to the chicane now. Cutler's not exactly out of the woods yet either because Payton is very close. Marsh is even closer behind Cook. It's an entire set and Payton has just lost the car. What happened to Payton there is anyone's guess. Let's see exactly what happened from the helicam. So of course fighting the set of four of them heading into the chicane. Marsh behind, barely avoiding contact with the Aston Martin, losing the rear over the first corner of the chicane, and he just couldn't keep it in line. Unfortunate for Peyton there, and you can see he's still struggling, but of course waiting for traffic to pass before it is considered safe to rejoin the track. Rejoining at a perpendicular angle to the racing line, no less, is all but a death sentence. And you can see rejoining now in 25th place. Unfortunate for him, but at the same time, good sportsmanship for not taking a risky play just to try and serve some positions. Do not envy him one bit for that scenario. And it looks like his troubles are not over because the yellows have just come out again for him. Our Cook we're on board with now. Number 182 car. The Aldi Special. Somewhat ironic coming from a Bentley, but I'm sure to say that's part of it. It's part of the experience. We're chasing down Engdahl for one of the single-digit positions. He wants that P9. But Engdahl wants that P8 just as much. You can see he's going very narrow. Trying playing it defensive against the Bentley here. Bentley's going to tuck back out to the outside. Chasing with all of his might. Say one of the heftier cars of this specification, but still can navigate its way around a racetrack very quickly, as we are seeing. While it maybe has an urban reputation for being a bit of a boat, it does still move, and it is quite rapid, certainly on the points of the circuit where you can really leverage some of the power. But the BOP is, of course, a fluid thing, and these cars do have inherent characteristics, but they can be tuned up or down depending on the needs of the circuit. The BOP is always fluid to ensure a fair racing experience. There is no one better car than the rest of this field, and that's the magic of it. Let's see what Cook can do, because he has got plenty of time. He doesn't need to take anything high risk. Staying in maybe on the back of Engdahl for now is a wise move. He doesn't need to put on such heavy pressure, because we still also have the pit stop window. And that is going to shake up the strategy in a big way for some people. Jump on McKibben. No longer under the pressure of Holmberg, but is trying to get past Hamby now. And Hamby, once again proving one of the strongest bronze drivers in the category. Next closest bronze driver is, in fact, Mark Hughes. And doing very well for himself, no less. Looking out very sharp in that Ferrari 296. He has got an assailant closing in the rear view, Damien Reed. In a different class, not so much of a concern, in all honesty. The interesting thing about these multi-class events, you don't have to be as concerned with other cars. Of course, you are still going to race them, because that is their nature as drivers. But the wider game, the wider race, and strategic game theory when it comes to your opponents is kind of out the window, or certainly not as prevalent. Because they are not going to impact you nearly as much as they would have if you are in the same class as them. Fortunately, we got Serrano back in the pits now, with Barham even further behind. So multiple laps behind by this point. And just in general, not having a very good time. Also is the same only driver by this point, having taken 2 stops. Although Serrano is yet about to join him. We jump further up and we can see once again Engdahl is closing. Trying to make a P8 on Marsh. The race is... The race is very much opened up still at this stage. Ooh, rough line there for Engdahl. Not a very good chicane for him. So where do we look at as we come to the 20-minute point of the race? We look at the likes of Larson, Homer, Hamby, all in very close proximity to one another, as we've seen a few big drops. Cook now in the pits. And no, I think that was a reset. We'll have to check in and see what's happened out of all of that. But in fact, I think we got a replay ready for us here. We're on board. Richard Cook was coming through, shoot, and then... Oh, was that it? That was it. We don't actually know, because the replay is either broken or we lost Cook in his entirety. We don't actually know what happened. He's not on pit timing. I think we have genuinely lost him from the field. Unfortunate to see. Let's look at where the rest of the field is currently lining up, and Hamby is going to be pushing for P13 now. Very good chicane, as is the rest of the field around him. McKibben and Holberg very close behind, looking to snap up on any mistakes. But Hamby's got a lot of pressure behind him. And of course McKibben and Holberg are the only buffer between him and Hughes. Even with about a 10-second difference between the drivers, having a couple of cars in between is a lot more valuable, because when push comes to shove, when those cars come together, Hamby has a chance to get away, while Hughes would be fighting with the other class cars behind. You can see regardless, Hamby under significant pressure as McKibben gets closer. Homer in very much the same regard. Three-way battle for P14 coming up. Watch this space. And unfortunately, I think Cook just did DC from the race. His race timer is completely broken. He's not under pit timing. I think that is just a textbook DC. Sad to see. I'm not sure what he can do in terms of getting himself back in things, but either way, that has completely ruined any momentum that he had in this point in the race. And it's tough. In terms of the mental game, it's tough to recover from an upset like that. Because when you get into a flow state of sorts as a driver, once you're broken out of that, it's very hard to get back in again. Here we go, this is McKibben. Briefly peeking to the right side for a move on Hamby. Doesn't go for it. He's trying to minimise the fighting, if possible, with himself and the bronze class driver, because Homer is his real target. We see a couple of trades coming out into the chicane. That's Cumberbatch making a move for P19. Now Simon Aid is going to be dropping back into 20th. And says timings are somewhat broken. I do apologise if at any point some of the figures look off. That DC jump on was it kind of threw things completely out of whack. We can see this battle for the mid-pack is continuing to rage on. And we're seeing the likes of Damien Reed get dangerously close as well to the likes of Hughes. So all of it's coming into fruition. Carlson now heading into the pits. Homburg very close to an attack on McKibben. While he doesn't quite go for it, it's still worth the note. And we look up to the front of the field intermittently. We can see a couple of things. We can see that Larson is about to attack for the podium on Moffat. And has a viable chance to do so. but ruthless consistency coming out from Dan in that Mustang. It's certainly going to put a damper on any kind of attack efforts. Especially he's had a little bit of a dicey exit from toe and up the hill and into boot now. Back down the hill. The undulation of this course cannot be understated. Continues the chase regardless. But looking at the top, Lindblom is very much pulling out of his gap because he has 5 seconds on Wolfslenner, but Wolfslenner is doing much of the same. It's a 2-horse race at the front over there, as Wolfslenner has now got 3.5 seconds away from Moffat, and as Moffat gets a track limits warning on that first corner, Larson could be not far behind and putting up some serious attack pressure. See, Holmberg has gone for the run here as more cars are now heading into the pit lane. Robert Homer going to be the next one to do so. More and more cars are taking this rough halfway point of the race as their cue to head into the lane to decide whether they want tyres, but either way they have to take that mandatory stop. A minimum about 20 seconds. We're down to 29 cars. Out from, I believe, 32. So, a couple of losses out on this course. And sad to see such a happening. Homer, curiously, I'm not sure if that is damage. That is damage that he's needing to fix on his car. So, he is going to be in the pits for a bit of a longer time than first predicted. That's going to put a serious damper on his race efforts. We are 16th lap of runnings here, as Lindblom has just crossed the line for another time, and is in fact the only car to have a 43.982 currently. So only car in the 43s. Very impressive. Marsh, Rios, O'Neill, all in the pit lane now. A few more coming through. Holmberg jumping into the pits as well. So a lot of cars are taking the exact halfway point as their jumping opportunity. A few more cars are set to be coming out of the pits. Homer now out of the pits and fully repaired by the looks of things. He's ready to get back in this fight. A 70-second pit stop is certainly going to put a damper on things. Doesn't mean he's out of the woods yet. Yeah, doesn't mean that he will be out just yet. He's not out of the woods. That much is still true, but he's still got a fighting chance in all of this. Oh, big mistake coming through for McKibben. Just want to see exactly what happened there. Of course, on the defensive from Hamby, just goes a little bit too wide, goes into the marbles, and lost some serious speed. This is what we were saying earlier about being careful where you place your car on track. Too far wide, you jump on the marbles, you lose a serious amount of grip. You don't have the rubbered in track, and those little pieces of rubber will keep you from actually contacting the track surface. You will just roll along as if you were driving on marbles. Hence the name. Little trivia. And with that in mind, we jump around this field. We can see the Wolfsledder and Larson are now in the pits. Cutler, Hellstrom, Engdahl, they're all following suit. Majority of this field is taking now as optimal time. Over half the field will have been done with their pit stops. And in fact, only, I believe, say 8 cars will have yet to take their stops by the end of this lap. Which is 8 out of 29 at this point. Certainly no small number. See Hamby now jumping into the pits himself, which leaves Hughes as the provisional leader for the bronze class, Reed as the provisional lead for silver, and Lindblom continuing to hold the lead for gold. Well, I think Lindblom is going to be soon for the pits himself, as he may be struggling to keep up the pace that he once did. You can see 44.8 last lap, so starting to see a little bit of degradation perhaps. Either that or last lap just was not his time. Let's see what he does here. Coming up penultimate corner. He's going to hang tight to one side. Nope, remains committed to this stint, going for a later pit stop than the rest of the field. See a few more mirroring, echoing said strategy. Lawson doing the same. Hughes going to be next one to check for. Of course, a little bit further behind in his own bubble, fighting his own fight. Patrick Lawson, in fact, is in the pits himself. And that was another McLaren that we were just sat with. A lot of the leaders are opting to stay out, opting to leverage the early position gain as much as possible. Before long, we're going to see Wolfslener rejoin the pack. Pun not entirely intended, but I'll take it. So the undercut strategy from the likes of Wolfslener could prove crucial as we see more cars now jumping into the pit lane. Mitchell is in. Patrick Lawson is in and going to be coming out very soon. Wolfslener now up into P7, with more cars soon to take their time. Question is, with about 70 seconds between them, barring a poor stop, where is Lindblom going to come out? And you can see barely keeps it within the yellow line, but he's going to be jumping into the pits. The race leader is now in for their mandatory stop. Is Moffat going to follow suit? Also in the Mustang? Yes, he is. Much narrower this time in the line compared to the lead, with Mark Hughes, the next one in the grid order to be taking his stop potentially. You can see only 3 drivers remain. Only 4 drivers, in fact, remain yet to take a stop. Time is of the essence here. If they want to maximize these stints, if they want to make sure they're not running on broken tires, and you can see there it is. That is Hughes in. Damien Reed can inherit 3rd position and lead for the silver group. Alex North going to be another one who's going to inherit that position. Although, is he going to keep it, or is he going to be dipping into the pits himself? Let's see a wide arc through the corner. Remains committed for another lap. Lindblom, meanwhile, is going to be out of the pit lane. Now the key question is, how far away is he going to be from Wolfslener? The answer, about 7 seconds. So very impressive stuff there from Lindblom. More pit stops coming out from a couple. But yeah, say Wolfslener doing very well, but not able to close that gap, as Lindblom now closing over the chicane. Mark Hughes, of course, losing some time, because he's jumped into the pit lane and he's going to be coming around about P20 when he releases from the pits. Or I could be mistaken. McKibben is going to beat out McKibben for P17. He's going to stay in that prime time spot. Where is Hamby, though? Hamby has seemingly dropped the position to Hughes, and we're not quite sure how he's done it. We are 25 minutes to go. Drivers are going to start getting a little bit antsy about where they're placed. Now it's a bit more of a toss-up in regards to how much they commit to the current position. When you get to the 10-minute mark, sure, you really want to make that final lock-in of whether you're committing or pushing up. But at this point, drivers still have a little bit of time to experiment, to try their luck. And worst case scenario, they dip back to their original position or even a position behind, which they can then regain. Fortunately, it's a common tripping up point. But we can see Cumberbatch is in, Reed is in, North is in, last cars now to take a stop, and the full order in true view is starting to be revealed, with Lindblom remaining in first. And that is in fact going to be Paul Wallace going in for a second stop. I believe he was caught up on the initial lap 1 chaos, and that was purely his stop for damage. So now this is an actual stint. Wolfslener about 9 seconds behind Lindblom when all is said and done, and Moffat 2.5. Larson is going to be about a second between them. And that is your main quartet of gold class drivers at the front. Meanwhile, in some other worlds, you have Hellstrom continuing to put pressure on Marsh. Of course, he's kept this fight up for multiple laps at this stage. Hellstrom showing just how capable he is of being a consistent attacker, of consistently remaining on the back of another car, keeping them under pressure, making sure they cannot breathe too easily with him around. Too much of a relaxation and maybe a misjudgment on a line, and Hellstrom is going to be right there to snap it up. Take the position and very comfortably ride off into the sunset. So as we tick on through to the final stages of tonight's race, things are starting to fall into place for some cars on this circuit. As Lindblom now makes it 10 seconds away from Wolfslener. And a couple of key groups of cars are starting to form as Hellstrom is in fact going to be yielding out. We actually saw the number 84 car of Hamby. We have a bit of insight onto why he's now P23, and that was because he had to serve a stop and go penalty. So why he's so far behind Hughes? You have your answer, folks. Stop and go penalty that he had to serve after coming out the pit lane, likely for breaking the pit entry speed limit or the speed limiter in the pit lane as a whole. Meant that he had to drop quite a substantial amount of positions. He still is P4 in class, but it's certainly not going to be helping his efforts. We're starting to see the timing board somewhat recalibrate, as we can see North and Wilson in close proximity to one another. Robert Homer is going to be looking to the left, he's going to be looking to the right, he's going to be going for a move on John Mitchell. That damaged Ferrari definitely seeing better days and seeing much better speeds through some of these corners. Not in a happy place currently is Mitchell in that car. As you can see, the shaking bonnet where some of the aerodynamic bodywork has been damaged, of course. Not going to be operating at maximum efficiency, which means valuable tenths, valuable seconds being lost. But is this enough to warrant a pit stop? That's the trade-off these drivers have got to make. Is it enough to warrant a potentially up to a minute-and-a-half pit stop? Or can they just grin and bear it? And for most drivers, they already know the answer. We have two battles that are potentially heating up. We have Hellstrom on the back of Engdahl, or on the back of Marsh, and Cutler on the back of Engdahl. You can see Hellstrom looking for a chance. Cutler not quite as close. You could just see in the background for a split second there. with Hellstrom firmly locking a sight on that Porsche. He's not going to relent. He's continuing to get Dave Marsh maybe second guess himself where he's placing himself, forcing him to go offline and be defensive. You can see even with just how he's moving his car left to right, he's not fully committed to one side or the other. He briefly considers going on the defensive and decides against it, decides that running the racing line would be better. He knows full well that Hellstrom is there and that problem is not going away anytime soon. Look outward to the horizon, you can see the cars all filing through as we come up to the final 15 minutes very shortly of this race, and we can see Cutler going a little bit wide in the pursuit of Jimmy Engdahl. Times are starting to become a little tough for the Aston Martins, as they haven't been able to push 110% like they usually do, it seems. Cutler, we know, has some solid pace, and oh, something has happened at the front of the field. It's going to be Marsh. Marsh is off the course. Let's see exactly what just happened. Let's see, once again, fighting off Hellstrom. They're going through and up into the back straight. Hellstrom's going to go for it side by side with the Porsche. Heading into the chicane now. Door is closed. Porsche is going to be spun with a double contact. So tries to close the door and the McLaren doesn't quite work, but then the McLaren taps this back as well, and you can see Marsh seriously struggling for car control. He's round again. This race has suddenly flipped 180 in being a very good opportunity for him to now being a very poor one. Luckily, not too long to wait before he gets himself back on course, but still, that is P13 for the Porsche here. Meanwhile, Homburg and Carson have a little bit of an altercation, a little bit of a score to settle, as these two have been not too distant from each other. But Homburg, 7 positions up compared to his start. Very impressive, great result. Ooh, a little bit of a wobble there from Homburg. Not going to be looking good for him. Meanwhile, Hellstrom on an absolute tirade, as he's going to be going into P6 now, making a move on Jimmy Engdahl, making it work and stick fairly effectively. Cutler is going to be, of course, in there as well, but Hellstrom, despite losing time, has not lost any of the motivation to continue to fight, and in fact going defensive into the chicane, anticipating an Engdahl counterattack. One that ultimately has yet to come, because now Engdahl, I believe, is going to be focused a bit more on Cutler just behind him. We'll tune back in with them shortly, but Homburg is going to be going for the attack on Carson. They're going to be going side by side into the chicane. Who is going to yield? It's going to be Homburg, just slightly behind. The McLaren could have done it, but it would have been very high risk, and after seeing some of the altercations with the other drivers, I don't think they want a repeat, or they don't want to join that somewhat Hall of Fame / Hall of Shame by going for a high risk move when they didn't necessarily need to. Homburg going around the outside of toe and into the boot, maybe trying to get a bit of a switchback, trying to get a bit more on the pace. See what he does here. Trying to negotiate the unique problem that is the Ferrari of Carson, the number 897. A bit of a wide run, but Homburg can't do anything with it. Ferrari's just in the way. Some good defensive driving is still maintaining your pace, but being at the wrong place at the right time for your opponent. Attacking is about being at the right place at the right time, and defending is about being in particularly wrong places, so that the right place is no longer correct for the attacker. Meanwhile, Homburg, you can see, goes to the inside, goes defensive, still getting a very good exit. Both of them continuing to push each other to the ragged edge, and this is what racing is all about. Two drivers combating each other on the racing track, pushing each other to the best of their ability. You can see Holmberg trying once again on the chicane, but Carlson knew exactly how to defend on that one. Continues that aggression, continues that fighting spirit all the way through. Down to a chute, into toe. Fight rages on. We look a little bit further as well, and we can see that Sean O'Neill is starting to get involved in this little quartet for P6. So Engdahl, Cutler, O'Neill, they're all chasing down that yellow McLaren. Of course, 3 McLarens and an Aston. It'll be quite the matchup. While we look further up, we see Moffat is going to go full attack mode on Wolfslener here. Time has come. He's decided that he's going to go for it. And McLaren having to go full defensive. But this could make it a Mustang 1-2 if he does get by. Moffat seems very intent on doing so. Look at his lines. Look at the way he's adjusting his approach. Maximum fight coming out from the Mustang. See a couple of other cars who could potentially be setting themselves up for some moves. We have McKibbin on Hughes, because McKibbin currently sat, I believe, 4th in silver, and with potentially some championship swinging points on the line, he wants to get by bronze class driver, start seeing if he can make some headway up to the rest. Where will he find himself now? He's losing a bit of time to Hughes, but certainly on the radar and the crosshairs. Holmberg continuing to pressure on Carson. Keeping an eye on his opponent is going to be the name of the game. You're not going to win these kind of battles overnight. It takes consistent fight, consistent pressure to eventually force your opponent into a mistake. Though with 11 minutes to go, that amount of time is starting to run out. So we're seeing Holmberg. He's going to go narrow. Doesn't fully commit to it. Has to tuck back into the racing line. But that's going to be a bit of an extension there from Carson in order to try and retain the lead here. Could we see Holmberg make a move into the chicane? That is going to be Carson going defensive. Again, strategically placing his car. Braking very early. Holmberg is going to. Actually playing it safer. But that does net him about half a second of time loss. A wobble from Carson is going to bring him well back into fighting range. And that's the ebb and flow. That is the ebb and flow of a combat encounter like this on the track. You get yourself comfortable, you potentially make a mistake, your opponent capitalizes on said mistake, and then the pendulum shifts. Instead of them making a mistake, it's you. It reins them back in. We have some big winners out of all of this. Ooh, bit of a snap from there. See Wolfslener going full defense as Moffat is now going to be committing to the move. He's going to be right on that left side. of Wolfslener through the chicane. Bit of a wider line coming from the McLaren in response, having to really play on the defensive. Moffat is right there. He's not giving an inch in terms of track space. He wants it, and he wants it now. He's tired of waiting. He potentially goes a little bit too deep, however, into chute. That is going to be a bit of a time loss. That is going to be him losing the rear and heading into tow. That is going to be Wolfslener pulling out about a 3/4 of a second gap. Did Moffat get a little bit overzealous there? I think so. Let's have Holmberg finally going for the move on Carson. They're going to be side by side into the chicane. But once again, Holmberg is going to be the one to yield. And Carson just has the advantage on the chicane. Continues to press the advantage on the chicane. And I find that very curious because Holmberg could very easily stick the elbows out just a little bit more and really get that Ferrari feeling a little bit uncomfortable. But it feels like at times Holmberg is softballing it. He's had a couple of opportunities where he could have laid claim to the corner, said, no, this is my space. And being the one who potentially would have been slightly ahead, could have got Carson to yield. Maybe just not a aggressive type of driver. But certainly there has been opportunities where he could leverage a bit more of that run that he's sometimes had. You can see, in fact, Dave Marsh is now wanting to get in on the action, so Holmberg is running out of time to make a real move before he's under threat of his own. Marsh could be trying to take his spot, and you can even see he swings out and in as a gesture of warning, almost. Number 282 car of Paul Wallace going to be having a little bit of a yellow flag moment, but is remaining down at the bottom of the field in P28. And down to 28 cars now, ladies and gentlemen. 28 cars. Holmberg will have to tune back with him because he's been fighting that for multiple laps now. Cumberbatch, meanwhile, is chasing McKibben down, and this Mustang has been making quite the push. 16 positions up. Remember, started 32nd and is now P16 and doesn't seem to be showing any signs of losing momentum. If all this goes to plan for him, he could even see himself getting very close to a silver podium. As Cutler currently sat in P2, and then Rios further up ahead. Carlson in P11. So Cumberbatch can certainly lock in P4 for silver here. A very impressive feat considering his start. Marsh has dropped down a little bit of placing by comparison, but is looking to fight his way back up. He's on the back of Holmberg, just as he is on Carson. Cumberbatch also closing in very close onto McKibben. But we are in the final 5 minutes, folks, so these next few laps are going to be crucial. This is where drivers now have to decide, are they committing to the attack or are they going to yield? Looks like Cumberbatch is going to be going for the former. Side by side, big contact, that's both of them off. Luckily nobody in the wall, but Cumberbatch is going to be seriously taking a shot to the talent after that one. No major incident, but McKibben and Cumberbatch both going to be losing some serious time. Both remaining in the yellow flag territory for the time being. And both going to be feeling that pressure of the race situation. But that's going to be Starkey yielding out of the way. Currently P26 and about a lap or so down. In fact, 2 laps down if we're counting the leaders. 31 laps to Starkey's 29. Yeah, sure. I think also taking a fairly familiar yield, as those are going to be the leaders of Moffat and Wolfslenner continuing their charge and fight. Even getting a little bit tail happy, the McLaren is within the crosshair. The massive bonnet of this Mustang. You go into bonnet cam, it's a completely different story to say like the McLaren. A much shorter nose, much shallower nose too. But that massive Coyote engine. Or is it the Coyote? Not sure. The GT3 has a variant or if it is a bespoke race model. But the roaring V8 cannot be mistaken for much else. That much is for sure. While most of this field, in fact, is running V8s, there's something about the American V8s that just sound so much more aggressive and much more raw. An angry animal that is being sort of chained and pulled along, rather than the, say, we'll call it more pared back and say stripped down sounds of some of the European variants. And while I won't get into cross-plane versus flat-plane cranks, what we need to know is that they have very distinct sounds, and you can definitely tell one from the other. Holmberg, speaking of, is going to be continuing that fight, but with only 2 minutes to go, this is likely going to be the second to last, if not the last lap that he can make this kind of thing work. So if he's going to go for a move, he needs to do it now. There's no real two ways about it. And oh, that's Larson! That is Larson up in P4, who we've just seen drop in a major way. Let's take aboard the helicam and see exactly what happened. Back straight, getting past some traffic. Into the chicane. And oh, just takes it a little too hot on the left side. Luckily slides out of the track space, but geez, that is going to be certainly a dent to his race efforts. That's going to put him in P8 now. And that is going to be immediate pressure coming in from Sean O'Neill, no less. And not only has he got a positional hit, but it also means that he's now under pressure. There we go, we just heard the cue as well that Lindblom has started the final lap of the race. And he is going to be in a, let's say, interesting turn of events. 18 seconds ahead of Wolfslenner. Lindblom has had a near untouchable race here. Crazy to think the kind of driving that he's put in, lap out, and where he hasn't had necessarily anyone to fight against, he's just been able to put in those consistent times, a consistent race speed, and that is the thing that matters here. Now we're on board quickly with Sean O'Neill, so he's going to be trying to see if he can capitalise on Larson's mistake, make it a P9 for him instead of just the P8. And a bit of an overextension on the course, but Sean O'Neill having a bit of a shaky bout of his own. Marsh stuck behind Hughes, Holmberg stuck behind Carlson. No, they're going to go for it now. It's like we said, now or never. They're going to bump bodies. And heading into the first corner, Holmberg is going to take the spot, but not before. Carlson has something to say about it. Big contact, both of them going off. Big slide coming in from Carlson, the number 897. And he's going to concede not only into P12, but now P13 as Hughes has made the run. Marsh is making the run. And that is going to be the Ferrari getting a little bit aggressive on the inside line, but coming back into it. And into the final corner. David Lindblom, you are the winner here at Watkins Glen. Amazing stuff there. That is race over for him. And that leaves just a few other cars to be decided in terms of their fates. Great stuff from all of the drivers on this field. That much cannot be understated. Homer jumping into the pits, curiously enough. But here we are. Wolfslenner across the line in P2. Moffat in P3. A very hard-fought battle. And the podiums for Gold Class have been decided. Meanwhile, Adam Rios closing the silver race in first place. An amazing drive there with Cutler coming in P2 for the class. It cannot be understated as we come through the final couple of corners. Hughes has fought valiantly and brilliantly. He's really punched above his weight in this competitive field, and 17 positions gained relative to his start. That is probably one of the best performances of this race overall. We of course had a massive standout race from our top drivers, but Hughes, the pure gains cannot be understated. Amazing drive and the bronze class winner. We look a bit further around, we can see Hamby in the pits in P3 and North in the pits in P2, having crossed the line slightly earlier, just after the leader finished the race. And that's a curious nature of this. But that is where we leave things for today, folks. So it cannot be said enough that we have some amazing racing here, and you as viewers, you as drivers, have been nothing short of amazing. But here we are, our final order. Liam Blom in first place, taking the win for gold, with Wolfslenner and Moffat taking second and third in the podium spots respectively. Rios, Cutler and Carson form your final three, although Carson has dropped out, can't jump the camera to him. And then for silver, and then for bronze, we have none other than Mark Hughes with a standout performance, and then Alex North, followed by Paul Hamby, recovering very well from a stop-and-go penalty, it has to be said. It really has to be said. That stop-and-go, I thought that was curtains, but he still pulled out a podium for bronze with a very respectable drive. And that is where we round things out for today, folks. It's been excellent to be in the commentary box, to have you all here, and tonight has been an amazing night. Now, where do we go from here is the question. Where we go from here is Austria. We go to the Red Bull Ring, and we go for quite an adventure. So we'd love to have you there for that. We are going to be closing out the stream for tonight, though. Thank you to everyone who's watched. Of course, drop us a like on the stream if you like what we do here. And with that in mind, folks, we will see you very soon. It's going to be next week, and it's going to be Austria for the Red Bull Ring. First time for me to be commentating on that track in ACC, and I cannot wait. Let's say next week we make it special. Bring it the A game for everyone, and of course to all the livery designers in the community too. Let's bring some spice. We'll see you next time. Take care. Good night.